Hi again, welcome back to my bedroom to talk about this. A couple disclaimers before I get started. A, I'm very sick today, so I don't know how coherent I'm going to be. And B, there is renovations happening in my house right now, right down the hall from me. So there might be noise in the background, but this is like literally the only time I have available to record before the end of this month, so sorry, bear with me. Chapter 20 is where we're at. So last chapter, Christian had gone missing, but then he came back and he was fine, and his helicopter had crashed, and then at the very end of the chapter, Anna had accepted his marriage proposal. Here we go. They're having this conversation about the fact that Anna gave Christian, because if you don't remember, she said yes to his proposal by giving him this little keychain that said yes on it, and they're having this whole conversation about she gave him that keychain a while ago and just didn't let him open it until his birthday. So the whole like teasing her because she's leaving him hanging and not answering him quickly enough was like basically unnecessary. And so he is like teasingly like, I believe some retribution is in order. So punishment time, yay! Except that Anna's reaction is, I know he's playing, but I take a cautious step back from him anyway, which is really not good. Punishments, which I guess I should define, is playful punishment in a kink context of like, we're like play acting like I'm punishing you, but actually I know this is something you enjoy, so it's fun for everyone, therefore punishment. Like that's great in a kink scene if that's what you've negotiated, which they haven't, but you know. But there needs to be a really clear line drawn between a punishment and an actual like fight or disagreement, or somewhere where you as the sub are actually feeling threatened. So the fact that she's like, I know he's playing around, but just in case, like there is still that little bit of actual fear in her mind. That's not good. If you have that distrust of your dom, that makes things so much more unsafe. And like, yes, there are scenarios where your limits are being pushed, where it's kind of edge play or fear play, and that's fine. But that takes A, a lot of negotiation, and B, you still have to, in the end, trust your dom and trust that they are going to not take it too far. And that your fear is not actual fear for your safety or well-being. Mistrusting your dom is a really big red flag. You should not be engaging in kink with someone you don't trust. Yada yada, stuff turns into other stuff, and now they're showering together, and like, it just occurs to me that like, this entire series is supposed to be about a kinky relationship, but first of all, they've been doing the vanilla thing for almost this entire book, and so like, all the sex scenes are just like vanilla sex and showering together, and like that stuff's fun. But to me as a kinkster, like especially recently, I've been like kind of broadening my kink horizons and discovering some new kinks in myself, and just like this shit's boring after a while. They're just over in this one little vanilla corner, and like I can't remember the last time that this book series about kink had an actual kink scene in it. Well, okay, I guess the teasing thing in the restaurant was sort of kinky, but that's just like these little forays into a little bit of kink, and meanwhile there's all this other shit over here, and I'm tired of being in this little corner, which, like, I know there's tons of, like, better kink erotica, and if I actually wanted to read something that was gonna get me off, there are other options that I could seek out, but, like, I'm here, I'm doing this series, I have to read these books, and it's just boring. It just starts to get repetitive after a while, and I'm like, but you guys, like, come on, let's go over here and explore some other stuff. I don't know, I'm fucking bored. I think the other thing that's kind of bothering me too is most of my sexual experience thus far in my life has been with people who are less kinky than me. So it's been a lot of, like, mostly vanilla sex with, like, a few, like, little bossy phrases thrown in here and there, and, like, sometimes I've gotten spanked and I've sort of gotten tied up a few times, and, like, that's kind of where the sex in this book in particular, is at. Most of it is just vanilla sex with just, like, these little tiny little drops of dominance kind of thrown in, and that's been my experience, and that's been a source of a lot of frustration for me, and I've reached a point in my life where I'm just done with that shit, and so reading this book feels like being stuck in that same sort of rut where it's like, come on, you guys, let's go. There's a whole world of kink to explore. Come on, it's gonna be great. But we're just stuck in this one little corner, and I'm just really sick of it. What? So, like, all of a sudden, it's Saturday, he exclaims, eyes alight with salacious wonder, and he grasps my waist, pulling me to him and kissing me savagely. Like, what the fuck just happened? Okay, it's Saturday. Great. Saturday's a good time to have sex. So is every other day of the week. What? Huh? I cling like a limpet to his neck. Ah, yes. Nothing sexier to compare yourself to than a limpet. Okay, a couple things. First of all, so he at one point, like, basically orders her to keep her eyes open, which, like, is just, I mean, I'm not, like, criticizing this particular situation necessarily, although maybe I am. I don't know. That's just something that's been on my mind recently, because eye contact in general is really difficult for me. It's just kind of always been a thing. It's kind of one of the ways my anxiety manifests. It's really hard for me to look at people in the eye. One thing that I've kind of encountered throughout my experience with kink is that eye contact control can definitely be a part of a power exchange dynamic. And that's something I've been really curious about, having a dominant control when I have to look at them, and when I can't, like, because there is that very much, like, stereotypical image of a submissive being ordered to, like, keep their eyes on the floor and, like, not look at their dominant. So that can also be a very, like, kinky power exchangey type of thing. But it's having someone, especially during sex and kind of in the heat of the moment, ordering me to look them in the eye, or, like, ordering me to keep my eyes open, because I very much do kind of close my eyes when an intense sensation is happening to me so that I can better, like, focus on that sensation. I think that would be a very vulnerable thing for me, and it's something I would definitely want to discuss and negotiate beforehand, and it's something that I would want to only really do with someone that I felt very comfortable and very trusting with, especially the first few times it happened, when, you know, I'm not 100% sure how I would react to having that actually happen to me. So once again, it's just one of those things that you might want to negotiate with your sub first. I mean, you want to negotiate everything with your sub first, and once again, Christian made that happen without any negotiation beforehand, and, you know, not really knowing how Anna would react, and it's just not a good thing. And then the other thing I was thinking about is, he says, "You are mine, Anastasia," and she says, "Always," and he says, "And now we can let everyone know because you said yes." And I just feel like this focus on like you're mine now because we're engaged is a very vanilla mindset. And to me, I mean, the first very tangible, like very outward sign of that sense of belonging to your dominant is being collared. If I was really into a dominant partner and we were very much in love and very much like wanting to have this be like a full-time like ownership kind of dynamic, like way before I can even thought about marriage, my first step would be like, I want you to collar me, and I would want to have that conversation. And I'm wearing one of my like day collar chokers right now, just because I want to. And that's the other thing is, for me, I have like a ton of chokers because I just really like the aesthetic of chokers. I think they make me look really good, and they make me feel really good. And also, I mean, when I'm single, they really help me stay connected to my submissive identity and feeling and wearing them. And especially I have a bunch with O-rings, like even though this one is from Forever 21 and would absolutely not stand up to any kind of actual play, but just even that aesthetic of having the choker with the O-ring makes me feel subbier and kinkier and is kind of an outward identifier if I go to like a kinky event or something, that I'm like, yes, hi, I'm submissive, hello. Anyway, that was a total tangent. And the other thing I want to say is that obviously, like, no two kinksters are alike, and no two kink relationships are entirely alike. And maybe for some kinksters, marriage is more powerful and more of an ownership thing than collaring. And certainly, like, I would love to get married someday if I found the right person, but to me, collars come first, way before any thoughts of marriage. Oh my god. And this author is so vanilla. He like has her up against the shower wall and he's fucking her, and she's like, I close my eyes and tilt my head back as my body bows, my will submitting to his, slave to his intoxicating slow rhythm. And it's just all this like, these like kinky submissive words always being used in a very vanilla sex context. I'm just very, I listen to like a sex and sexuality podcast called The Dildorks, which by the way is fantastic and I highly recommend that everyone listen to it, but the two co-hosts are very kinky and they've actually helped me discover a lot of new kinks. I have become so much more kinky since I started following them, and I was listening to it before recording this video, so I'm just feeling extra kinky and extra not here for all this vanilla shit. I don't know. I'm sitting up in bed. Christian insisted on drying my hair. He's quite skilled at it. How that happened is an unpleasant thought, so I dismiss it immediately. I don't understand, like, any of that. The fact that she's like, he's quite skilled at it, like, that is kind of her code for it was hot. Having someone else dry your hair has never occurred to me as an erotic thing, but I'm sure it probably is for some people. So, fine. But how that happened, how he got to be skilled at drying people's hair is an unpleasant thought. What am I forgetting? What context am I forgetting? You know what? I don't care. Every time I come up against something in this series that I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot something important, and now I don't understand that, I always come to the conclusion, oh yeah, I don't give a shit. Moving on. Okay, see, here's the thing. I thought I was going crazy. So, chapter 18, chapter before last, Christian's going to Portland. And that's his day trip. Last chapter, he's talking about going to Vancouver. Now this chapter, again, he went to Portland. Hi, editor of the 50 Shades series. What are you doing? How did this get past you? Also, like, Portland and Vancouver are in opposite directions of each other. What is going on here? Oh my god, I just, like, straight people. So she wakes up before Christian does and like wanders into the kitchen because she's gonna make him breakfast in bed, and Jose's already up, he's eating cereal, and she's like teasing him like, do you want a real man's breakfast? Can we just let men enjoy things? Can we just let men eat cereal if that's what they want to eat? Like, can we not make this an issue of masculinity over fucking breakfast foods? Like, okay, so this is like one of the first valid points that I think I've seen these books bring up ever. She and Jose are talking and he's like, you really like him, don't you? She's like, I love him. And he like jokingly is like, yeah, sure, what's not to love, and like indicates this like huge lavish apartment, but it makes her kind of stop and think like, oh, is that something I'm gonna have to deal with? Is that I'm just marrying Christian for his money? Which like that's a valid thing. Like I can imagine that happens to people who marry into money, and I can imagine that that's not a pleasant thing when you actually genuinely do love this person who is also wealthy, which, you know, I mean, consumerism, capitalism, it's just dumb. Yikes. So Jose just left and Christian's like, you didn't tell him we were getting married, and she's like, no, I figure I should tell my parents first, which like fair. And then Christian's like, oh yeah, and I should ask your father. I have so many thoughts on this. Oh my god. So first of all, a lot of the kinksters I know and follow are very feminist, very like queer, just very queer, but also very like kind of queer activisty and just very non-traditional in their sexual and romantic pursuits. I mean, not just in the fact that they're kinky, but also in their views of like these romantic traditions. So it feels odd to me to have someone who is kinky and who is also very interested in marriage and the traditional ways of going about marriage. But then I was thinking about it and I realized that I have also met some kinksters who are more traditional and after kind of the more traditional model of a relationship, just with kink added. I don't want to say that those kinds of kinksters don't exist, because they do. So I guess that's that out of the way. I'm just very much one of those queer, non-traditional feminist kinksters. And not to say that you can't be a feminist and also want the traditional family model, because of course you can. Just in my personal life experience, that divide has been the queer feminist ones aren't about tradition at all, and the straight, not feminist ones are. So yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud right now, sorry. Also, I have some strong opinions about if the person that I was going to marry asked for my dad's permission. Don't. Note to my future fiancés, don't do that. I'm not my parents' property. I'm not my father's property. That would really offend me. However, I don't want to shame people who do like that particular tradition, because I know a few people like that who love the idea of asking for the father's permission, asking for the parents' permission, and consider it a sign of respect towards their family. And that's great. And I think one of the problems with like straight vanilla society is that marriage is not really something that it is encouraged for you to talk about with your significant other before you guys get engaged. But I think there are a lot of things that, particularly when you get into these traditions, that you really need to discuss first. How you want your engagement and your wedding to go. And I don't think that's something that's encouraged nearly enough. If you're a straight person, you have all these societal models and expectations of how your relationship's gonna look, how your engagement's gonna look, how your wedding's gonna look. And it really is more in the queer community where our relationship is already non-traditional. So we already kind of have to discuss how that's gonna look. And I think that's really cool, and it opens up so many other possibilities of the way to live your life and the way to show your love. And God, there's so many aspects of like queer culture and kink culture that straight vanilla people could benefit from. Just my opinion. The chapter ends on Anna takes Christian up to the bedroom to give him her last two presents. One of them is like this cute little solar-powered model of his helicopter. And then the other one is this box full of like a blindfold, nipple clamps, a butt plug, yada yada, and the key to his playroom, which they have not been into for quite a while. He says, "You want to play?" She says yes. He's like, "You're sure?" And she says, "Not the whips and stuff." That needs some further negotiation, because not the whips and stuff could mean a lot of different things. It could mean specifically no impact play. It could mean any kind of kink, which is hardcore, which is such a nebulous concept and really needs some better definition in that case. Or, you know, they're just, if she's setting a really broad boundary like that, there needs to be some further negotiation and setting of specific limits and defining what she means. But, you know, it's 50 Shades, so they're just gonna head right in there and start doing whatever Christian wants, basically. So yeah, that's chapter 20. Anyway, congratulations, us. We survived another chapter. Well done. Go team. Yeah, fuck, I'm gonna go collapse for a little while now because I feel awful. Join me next month for them to finally return to some kind of kink in this kinky erotica novel series. Until next time, I hope you have the spookiest, scariest, most fun, wonderful Halloween that you want. You know what? Fuck it. I've been meaning to like connect my Twitter to this YouTube channel for a while, and who knows, maybe I'll tell you about my other social media eventually too. So I am Lee C Artistry on Twitter. So you should totally follow me on Twitter. You might get to know me a little bit better, and also I would love to be able to start keeping you guys updated on what's going on behind the scenes of this channel a little bit. So instead of telling you to post something in the comments on this video like I have been doing, because I don't think you can post photo comments on YouTube, you guys should totally send me pictures on Twitter of your Halloween costumes, because I think that would be awesome. Happy Halloween, you guys. It's spoop season. I love it. Okay, bye.